Hey everyone, Rick here, and folks, welcome to my Game Room Tour 2024. Alright folks, let's start here with my no admittance except on party business sign before we head into the game room itself. So folks, happy 2024. I cannot believe it is a new year. I feel like 2023 went by so fast. I think a lot of people probably feel the same. That sign in front of my game room was gifted to me by a couple friends of mine, handmade by them. I swear, and I'm sure a lot of people agree, it's no big secret that handmade gifts are often end up being some of your favorite gifts to ever receive, just because of the fact that people actually not just throw money at a gift, which is always still very much appreciated because there is thought behind that as well, but just took the time to actually create something using talents that they have. So here we go. I just did a quick 360 of the game room, and let's talk a little bit about what we're looking at here. So I got into tabletop gaming in earnest back in 2009, late 2009, and it exploded since then. Of course, I had dabbled in things when I was a kid: Pokemon cards, Dragon Ball Z cards, Magic the Gathering, and of course the Mage Knight collectible miniatures game. But then in 2009, I found the glorious world of modern designer board games and have not looked back. So these shelves are, of course, the IKEA Kallax shelves, and a lot of the games that you see here are in their original position when I first moved into this house, out of my parents' basement where I had already amassed a sizable collection of board games, trucked them all over to my house, dedicated the basement to this game room, put up these shelves, put the games on the shelf. No real rhyme or reason, though you will see a lot of them are, next to other games of their same family. Like a bunch of the Descent second edition stuff is all together. Some of the Dungeons and Dragons Adventure Series games are together, though not all of them are together because there are more than that kind of spread out everywhere. I had this little area here, which if you've seen my last video, it used to be full of knickknacks. We've cleared that knickknacky stuff off. We have a lot of new things to show this year. This is kind of like my little two-player gaming area, but more recently it's become the pile of games that I want to get played area. So a lot of these I've either learned and played solo, but I really want to get them played with other live human beings, including Nucleum, Kutnahora, Septima, Barcelona, which is right now my favorite game of 2023, The White Castle from the designers of one of my favorite games, The Red Cathedral, After the Empire was a Kickstarter I missed out on back in the day, but got it through the Game Steward. God bless those folks for providing that service to those of us who miss out on Kickstarters, because the deluxe edition of After the Empire with all the little mini soldiers is just so cool. I'm not going to go over every single little detail in the room, but if anyone sees something that they want more information on, please just drop a comment and I will happily respond to them. Of course, we have the vending machines. I think the mini crane machine was in last year's video. I can't remember how many years I've had it now, but I stocked it full of a lot of my own favorite things. So, you have little anime figures, you have Super Mario stuff, you have emojis, Gundam, all kinds of things. And of course, the old standby capsule machines, where you'll see an absolute metric ton of those around the room. Then some other shelves. So once I outgrew my Kallax shelves, which happened pretty quickly, basically everything you see there was in my parents' basement in my room. If you can believe that, that's crazy. Check some of my old videos, because I think I actually have some old game room tour from back when I lived in my parents' basement, and you can see a lot of games there. But then I got these other shelves. These were just from an auction. I have no clue what kind of shelves those are, but they ended up being really good, very modular. So you can see some of the otter shaped boxes ended up fitting really well on there. And then another set of those over here. Standouts over here, of course, the War of the Ring anniversary edition with all those painted figures and everything. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Zaya is another big one. This is a lot of Kickstarter stuff. So like all of the others stuff, the Arcadia Quest Inferno stuff, Sword and Sorcery. I haven't touched Sword and Sorcery. I haven't touched a lot of this stuff. The others is still in shrink. This was back when I was so into the Kickstarter, gotta have it all seen, and I had no like real plan to like, obviously the intention is to play that stuff, but I just still haven't. I've A lot of that was Ameritrash stuff, right? The dungeon crawls, the figures, and I don't want to say I've moved on because I still love minis, but mostly for my own games like Dicey Depths and stuff, but these kind of board games with figures in them, honestly, I'm a little bit more of a Euro fan these days, I have to say, though WarQuest is an exception. WarQuest is my favorite dudes on a map style game. But anyway, so that's enough of that shelf. We have more capsule machines over here. We have another set of the IKEA Kallax stuff over here with some of my, again, some of the older games that I've gotten. And it's so funny because you'll see new editions of games all the time, like the Thunderstone Advance stuff, and now it's Thunderstone Quest, I think, is out there that replaced it all. And I got the Thunderstone Advance stuff after it replaced original Thunderstone. So it's like, oh, and you can't trouble yourself too much about that, right? Like there's always going to be new editions and whatnot. Here is my BoardGameTables.com table, though they're not called that anymore. There's something on the tip of my tongue that I think they call themselves now, but I don't want to say it out loud in case I get it wrong. But this table has served me well since 2015. So what is that? It's now 2024, so almost 9 years. This table has served me so well. And these chairs basically match the table, right? But no, these chairs were just from a local furniture store. This table, yeah, it has some scuffs and stuff because, again, 9 years of game nights every weekend. But I do have drawers. If there was one other thing I would have added back in the day, it would have been cup holders for sure. But the interior is a 5x3. If I ever do get a new game table, and that's definitely not out of the cards because I found that a bigger game table would be nice, we're definitely going to go with the 6x4 route on the interior at least. 5x3 is really nice though, and in fact these WizKids mats that they've come out with are exactly 5x3, so that fits perfectly in that recessed area. That's what this topper is. So you've probably seen other videos of mine where I've left the top on. So, and I just slid it back over there for now because I was testing out some stuff. We're getting ready for a huge, possibly the biggest Dicey Depths game I've ever played. And so we're working out some things with that. Speaking of which, take a look at these wolves. These wolves are Monster Fight Club wolves, but I rebased them. I just put them on some wooden bases and flocked them so they kind of look really cool. Love those. My GTA, now what is it? GT Player gaming chair. I did a build review of that. This chair is fantastic. And the only reason it's here, and I put one of the other chairs over there, is because I had nowhere else to put this. I bought this chair for a LAN, local area network, I think it's what it stands for. When you bring your computer, bring your console, everyone plays on the same network. I do these LAN parties with a friend of mine, but we also grab all our stuff and take it to this convention center where they have huge LAN events. And I wanted my own chair because otherwise they just had folding chairs. So no, if I'm going to be there for like 27 hours of straight gaming, I wanted my own chair. So this is the chair I ended up buying based off of a really good deal on Amazon. It was like $120 or something, and it is so nice. Check out my review of that. It reclines. It has a leg rest that slides out, so you could almost lay and go to sleep in that chair. Oh, it is so fantastic. But I had nowhere to put it when I'm not landing, so I figure, all right, I'll just put it at this table, even though it stands out like a sore thumb. All right, enough. We got to keep it moving. Pokemon vending machine. So this is just a regular beaver capsule 2-inch capsule vending machine that I personally filled with a bunch of Pokemon in these capsules. Here's something really cool. So this little baby right here is the star of my first TikTok, if I can open it up, to reach 1 million views. That's right. So I am on TikTok now with a 1 million time viewed TikTok, and it was just of this Pop-O-Matic D&D dice popper. And you can refill the dice with whatever you want. It just came with the set of polyhedral dice. But you could put a bunch of D6 in there. You could do whatever you want. And I'm pretty sure the Trouble board game popper thing was called the Pop-O-Matic, right? Because I posted this on TikTok and I was like, it's a Pop-O-Matic for D&D. And everyone's like, it reminds me of Trouble. Oh, wow, you reinvented the Trouble wheel. And I'm like, guys, no, isn't that what the Trouble popper is called, was the Pop-O-Matic? Anyways, so then we have Henry and Ricky. You'll notice that a lot of this stuff around here is here because I had nowhere else to put it. Like, this is Halloween decor that I typically put up for Halloween, but when they're not on the front porch, they are, having fun playing games in the game room. So we have a lot of plushies, a lot of Pokemon plushies. We have more dice back here, some, knick-knacky things we found at Renaissance fairs and whatnot. The whole couch cushion area over here is for our little retro video gaming area. The sad thing is, which I've noticed as soon as I turned this on for this video, is that the only time I ever turn this on is for game room tour videos. How sad is that? Like, I never play these games. Even though this is here, every once in a while, if a friend brings their kids over, the kids may play the game. But even then, I don't know that anyone's actively played this in a couple years at most, at least. So yeah, I just thought that was funny. As soon as I turned this on for this video, I was like, you know what? The only time I ever turn this on is for these game room tour videos. Now, I actually did. This is my only VHS player in the whole house. I did actually watch a VHS in there. Probably about as long ago as we played games anyway. All right, so then we have this cabinet here. Now, I'm sorry, guys. Some of the questions about furniture or like where I got a cabinet, if it's not those IKEA shelves, I can't really recommend it because a lot of it came from auction finds or local furniture stores. So I have no clue what the name of this cabinet is or whatnot. But we have the new Miniature Building Authority buildings in here, which I cannot wait for more of those. Definitely, we shifted some shelves around. It used to be a bunch of Puppet War stuff up here. Now it's just some figures and my copy of Dragon Lords. And then all of that Miniature Building Authority stuff with a bunch of painted Dungeons & Dragons style figures. This is my, apart from all these Free Blades figures and that Hordes of the Things army, this is kind of like my gift shelf. Not necessarily all gifts, like this painted figure from Gary Chalk. I got that from a Kickstarter. That Rock Bottom game was someone who sent that to me to review for their Kickstarter. A friend of mine, who's actually going to come play the Dicey Depths game with us, gifted me these bone dice. The manager of my friendly local game store painted and gave me that beholder, and then that letter that says read me first with those two figures flanking the beholder was gifted to me by a viewer of the channel, actually, my dear friend Hal. And so I put a lot of those kind of gifted things on display here. Then we have some stuff that I handcrafted, specifically those buildings. I didn't really craft them, but I put them together. Those are a bunch of foreground buildings on those shelves with some pre-painted confrontation figures. And then at the very bottom is Super Dungeon Explorer. All that stuff was, I think, on this shelf before, but we moved it around. More capsule machines. Back over here, of course, Cecilia saying hello. We have some other, these are buildings from the company You Built It, who sent me all of that stuff for review. So I put those together and did videos on that. So a lot of the stuff you see, you can definitely see more details of in their videos. This whole armoire that I got from an antique fair, I just put a whole bunch of old school games in here. My Grail games like Magic Realm, Dawning Empire, Divine Right, Dragon Pass, all of these super old school games. This Still in Shrink, Return of the Heroes, all of these, and tons of role-playing game material. I don't even know where to begin here. A bunch of RuneQuest stuff, a whole pile of Dungeon Crawl Classics modules and books, and of course the original gold foil book, that first edition of the Designers and Dragons book. I love fantasy RPG history. Tunnels and Trolls stuff, Torchbearer, Castles and Crusades, Tales from the Fallen Empire, all sorts of amazing things. And then some of these paper buildings, I did a video on that as well. They're like really nicely scaled for, like 25, maybe 28 mil figures. And so there's more figures up there like that. Whole bunch more stuff down below, bunch of old Avalon Hill fantasy board games and whatnot. Of course, backing it up a little bit, we have the snack zone. Right now it is overfull with Pringles. Pringles pop and cookies and things. And of course we have our game store display that is really overrun with stuff. This is where I like to buy mass duplicate copies of things. I ended up buying, I can't remember, like 40 copies of the Ogre Pocket Edition when they re-released it through the Kickstarter. I was the one, I'm going to take credit for this, that asked Steve Jackson Games when they ran the Fantasy Trip Kickstarter, the original one, if they could please offer us an option for a retail display version of it so I could put it with all my other cool stuff. And they said yes, and so that is why we have the retail display of that. A whole bunch of the copies of the Melee and Wizard plastic box. Tons of dice. I can't remember where I got this acrylic dice tray display, but I definitely picked that up. You can't even see it right now, but this is also I think it's an Ultra Pro booster pack dispenser full of various and sundry, mostly out of print booster packs. And then every once in a while I'll get some really crazy dice, some of these serious dice and whatnot, but also some of these like different dice made out of different minerals. Some friends of mine gave me some dice they picked up in Vegas. This out of season, I want to call them a music producer, a publishing label, actually released a set of their own dice. But then I'll also find really cool dice in like Walmart, believe it or not. These, I can't remember if these came from Walmart or not, or if these came from somewhere else. I can't remember. But anytime I see like gaming dice in a big box store, I pick it up. Then they release these dice towers, and I think there's a set of dice in here as well. So I picked up 3 of those. I picked up a bunch of these campaign dice sets. And when they had, and they may still have, those Dungeons and Dragons metal figures. Like, I'm not really ever going to use those, but I just thought that was kind of a neat little thing, because I'm a hoarder of all things fantasy role-playing and tabletop gaming. But these, I think, right here were the first ones that I saw them release at Walmart. These just regular generic dice. You get 3 sets of dice, you get 3 dice bags. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. So I picked up 3 sets of those. Then later, the color scheme of the box shifted a little bit, and they released a new set. So this was 3 new sets. However, and it also has 3 dice pouches in that as well. Yeah, there's my McDonald's knuckle duster. It's hilarious. A whole bunch of copies of Valkenburg Castle, because I was obsessive and bought a whole bunch of those when I found a big lot full of them. And then they came out with these campaign dice. Now this, I believe, there's only 1 dice bag in this one. So this is a little history of role-playing game dice at Walmart you probably weren't expecting to get here. They released the 3-pack with 3 bags, re-released it 3-pack with 3 bags, then they had a 3-pack but only 1 bag. But yes, I also picked up the little the display box. Those were in as well. Anyways, spent way too long on that. Here were a bunch of just random dragons that they released at Target one year. I have no clue about the reason or purpose behind those, but I grabbed a full set of those, of course. A whole bunch of Free Blades figures. We have, and then of course, the actual cabinet itself. This little thing here is where I store all my card sleeves. When I used to be able to buy them by the box, when Fantasy Flight, those were my favorite sleeves. Now they're Gamegenic. My friendly local game store doesn't sell them by the box anymore. I used to buy the Fantasy Flight sleeves by the box. And also there's Ziploc baggies in there. And we have token bowls and whatnot in here. In this cabinet here, we have Tunnels and Trolls, one of the original edition rule sets with that spiral binding on it. We have the reproduction wood grain Dungeons and Dragons anniversary box set, whatever that was, that came out years and years ago. all of these Warhammer figures. Some of my favorite things were these Fantasy Trip. Those are still sealed blisters of little tiny figures, like 15, 10 millimeter. I can't remember. Does it even say on there? I can't read it from this far. But that's a pack of hobgoblins. And then this other pack over here is, I think, just regular goblins. Or is it orcs? I can't read it. But those are like unbelievably rare to find, like actual figures that went to the Fantasy Trip. And then some of my other old school sealed things. This was a new edition of the Grim Tooth's Traps. Then a whole bunches of boxes and more sealed things of just a bunch of old out-of-print card games and whatnot that I could get my hands on. Let's see, what else? Over here, this is a little wall of things people made me. This DBZ diamond painting. This is a little memorial to my friend Billy who passed away. This was one of the last games we played. My friend's daughter, you know, she's a little baby toddler and she colored that, so I thought that was kind of cool to put up there. Fantasy Trip, as you can tell, I was obsessed with collecting Fantasy Trip stuff back. So that is the poster, which is just an absolutely gorgeous poster. If we could get that glare off of there. Yep, no fold marks whatsoever on that. How cool is that? Then a whole bunch of figures. A lot of these came from the Miniature Building Authority Kickstarters. And then some generic figures. I'm not sure where those came from. All of these are Warhammer Fantasy armies of orcs and goblins and the Empire. And then we have a whole big shelf here full of games. And some of these are my absolute favorite games, including Crown of Amara, Kalimala, CO2 Second Chance, Praga Kaput Regni, Master Builder. Oh my gosh. I was going to do a video of my top 10 underrated games, and one of the big one was going to be Master Builder. This game is so cool. You may have seen this pirate ship that my friend's dad built for me. Oh my gosh, talk about a handmade gift given to me for my birthday. Check that out. You got to see this ship. He handmade it out of like plasticard, this corrugated plastic. Oh my gosh, and he hand decorated the entire thing. Above that is, of course, that AMC movie theater popcorn D20 ball, which was sold out everywhere prior to the movie even being released. Thankfully, I was tipped off that they had more on their website, and I was able to snag one before they sold out almost instantly. And then in this cabinet, we used to have Dragon Ball Z Ichiban Kuji figures, but instead I've put in my favorite Lego sets. Well, some of my favorite Lego sets. But I also made little displays telling you a little bit of information on them, what they retailed for originally, what the current market value is. If you go on, I think it was Bricklink that I used for those prices, but we have a couple Western sets here. We have the Imperial Trading Post. We have, of course, the Black Knight's Castle. We have the Message Intercept Base for Blacktron of Classic Space, and a couple of my favorite old, really cool Lego townhouses in this neat little thing, little camper down there. Before we get too far in this direction, I also stored more games underneath the television over here. Let's go behind the case and talk about all of the stuff that's back here. So, of course, we have our simple piece of grid wall with these. And I think I rant about this every time I do a game room tour. Reaper Miniatures at one time had a whole line of pre-painted figures called Legendary Encounters. Can you believe it? And look at the paintwork on that guy. That is fantastic. I don't care who you are. This is a fantastic pre-painted figure. Yes, a Golden Demon winning artist is going to be able to do better, but for someone like me who just wants to throw down a pack of goblins, come on. Reaper, please, you have such an amazing line of figures. Please return to the Legendary Encounter stuff. And then I have a bunch of Battletech Ironwind Metal stuff. I think I've talked about this before. I have named and come up with a backstory for this Undead Warlord as part of a Kickstarter. So this is a limited edition figure that I chose, that I named. This is Zelktuvia of the Abyss. I wrote his backstory, which is published in a campaign book for Chaos Wars from Ironwind Metals. So I got, I think it was 12 copies of this figure, I believe, So I think I gave one to a friend, and I have one. Um, no, actually, I didn't give one to a friend because here's 11 of those figures here, and I have one in a shadow box. I may have given a different one to a friend because, oh, that's a long story. We don't get it. We don't need to get into that. And I'm not, again, I'm not going to go into every single thing here, but this whole Ronin game is insane. It's like a customized robot tactical battle game where there's all these blister packs of different weapons that you can magnetize onto the robot. And then I have a bunch of other figures back here. This whole row is just of random figures. I think this came in one of those monthly subscription boxes. I think I found that at a local antique store. I think I found the one behind it at a local antique store as well. That's one of the old metal Mage Knight figures, which I never understood why they didn't have a clicks base like the rest of the figures. But anyway, here's just a pile of games. A lot of these I got on a clearance sale at my local game shop. They were like $5 or $6 a piece, and so I absolutely had to snatch those up. There's a bunch of just mishmash stuff back here. There's a fantasy trip thing. I bought a whole bunch of Hex Tech Terrain. I think I did a video on this as well, and I even said at the time, I have no idea what I'm going to use this for now, but I want to buy it before I don't buy it, and then years pass, and it's no longer in print, and I, for some reason, want 6mm sci-fi terrain, so of course that's how I justified it to myself. There's a whole bunch of stuff back here. These are Dungeon Saga figures that were painted for me through their Kickstarter. This is the original poster, folks. How often do you see this? I don't know. Maybe it is super common. I don't see it very often. Back when Dungeon Crawl Classics, the role-playing game, you know, they did modules, but then they came out with their own role-playing game, DCC, which is a huge thing these days. This was before the game even came out. So this was coming February 2012. This was a promotional poster for it, one of the first of their pieces of merchandise or art or whatever you want to call it that I was able to pick up. I can't even remember where I got this poster from, but I was like, yeah, that's really cool. I can't wait for that to come out, and I framed it, and then the rest is history after I bought. I went on a module buying spree for a long time. That was when Kickstarter was first coming out, and one of my first projects I ever backed was the dreaded, horrible Brave Halfling Publishing Kickstarter for DCC, where they promised these box sets and rules that most of which never got fulfilled. Sorry, I'm all over the place. Here's a bunch more Dungeon Saga figures that I just have on display over here. These cases are just full of figures from alternative armies for my games of Arrows and Blades, Warriors of Mana. This box of sleeves down there is for my Skyrim adventure game. Here's a whole bunch of my other dice. So I have just boxes and boxes of dice whenever we need dice. Here's a little cabinet full of other random bits and bobs. What's even in here? Oh my gosh, are these not absolutely gorgeous? These free RPG Day dice from 2023. Oh my gosh, those are so gorgeous. We got the dice bag and the dice tray in there as well. More painted figures. We have these Light Seekers, decks, and cards. Of course, the Munchkin collectible card game stuff. And then here's those booster packs on display. Now that you can actually see behind here, I got a whole big, booster box of Fallen Empires that I just put back in there. Oh yeah, one other thing I was going to talk about. If you've seen my videos in the past, I can't remember if this would have been in there. No, I guess it wouldn't have. It would have been missing as of last year too. I had an unlimited Mox Jet displayed right behind that Bretonnian Pegasus rider. Unlimited Magic the Gathering Mox Jet card, as well as several other complete sets of old Magic the Gathering sets. I was just so worried that one day this basement may flood and I'd lose everything, and the most valuable stuff down here would probably be those Magic cards. So what did I do? I took them all to a local comic shop and sold them. And they offered me an unbelievable price. I'm not going to name what it was, but I will just say that really helped me buy the new car that I have now. So yes, it was a very fair deal. But anyways, over here we have my Mage Knight Dragon still in the box. I have a couple that I actually play with, but I went to a local show, and they had all 4 dragons still boxed. I was like, well, yeah, absolutely, I'll take those because that'll go good in this area. This is the big new area, folks. I know it's a half hour into the video and we're finally seeing something new. This is my answer to needing more shelf space, and I had that whole huge rack of Mage Knight boosters, and I still have all those boosters. They're just stored away. But in these shelves, I put these shelves together. These are not IKEA Kallax shelves. These are from a hardware store called Menards here locally or regionally. And I was able to put a whole bunch of my games over here. And originally, every other cubby was open and I had knickknacks in it. Now I'm down to only 3 open cubbies left, and probably less once we get those games played and put in here. But folks, some of my favorite games of all time are in here, including Tila Tomb, including Golem, Messenia 1347. But we do have a lot of really cool knick-knacky things. Of course, a lot of it's D&D related, which, you know, I played in one campaign for a few months and I had some fun. But I wouldn't necessarily call myself a D&D connoisseur, yet you'll see D&D stuff all over the place just because I respect the heritage of fantasy, role-playing gaming, and all that kind of stuff and where that brought us to today. But yeah, there's a lot of little statues and things. These dice, you've probably seen these dice. I did a YouTube short on these. This was that blind pack, Asarak's Treasure or whatever. And this was the pack that I opened, and unbelievably, it ended up being, I guess, a super rare pack because it was this liquid core sharp edge dice set. How freaking gorgeous is that? I just bought one of these packs on a whim, and it ended up being that pack. Unbelievable. But family and friends always give me these gorgeous, I guess super expensive. These are like $100 or more a pack of these kind of dice, these gemstone dice, different rock formation dice. Here's some more over here. Some of these are absolutely gorgeous. Well, they're all gorgeous. Some other friends of mine they always know if anything else, they can gift me dice. And so I get all kinds of just gorgeous dice. These are kind of the more novelty things back over here. Like the giant Kool-Aid D20, which is hilarious. And of course, the Kraft and Heinz game packs. This is Widower's Wood. This chest is full of the big Kickstarter game Widower's Wood. And then some other games. And of course, we have a dragon back here. These light triangles, I got a couple sets of those just to illuminate this alcove back here. And as you can see, it illuminates it really well. And these are just absolutely gorgeous. And then this whole tower, if you ever wanted to see figures that I personally painted, this is about the extent of my painting ability, is just a dry brushing skeletal situation. But all of these drawers in this cabinet, this is such a space saver, lifesaver. I have every drawer is full. So like here are dice bags and dice. Here are different tokens and gaming accessories. Here are figures. So there's going to be a bunch of figures, figures, and then a whole bunch of more tokens and rulers and life counters. And some of my favorite games of all time list, some Warhammer rulers and templates, whole bunch more dice bags and coins, these little hacky sack looking bird things, and some token trays, more token bowls, and more token bowls. And then down in there, there's some dice towers and whatnot. But that alcove is now fantastic for gaming related things. All right. That is pretty much everything from the game room as a whole. Of course, if we wanted to point out some of my favorite games, like we talked about War Quest, we have Zaya up there. The Bloody Inn is one of my absolute favorite games. So they're all over the place. But now let's take a peek at some of these peripheral rooms, because this is where I store a lot of the minis and terrain. And this is going to be a mess, folks. Just FYI, this is going to be... And I have cleaned this out, so there is floor space. I can walk around the table. And the only reason this table is really full right now is because, again, I'm getting ready for a huge Dicey Depths game. I flipped this piece of paper over earlier because this actually has the map of the very first dungeon on it. So we can't show that in case someone who's going to play in that game sees it. So I'm sorry I can't show that to you. We do have my painting station, which is more of a basing station because I really don't paint a lot of figures, but I mostly base some figures. But of course, it's cluttered with stuff. Like when I based those wolves, I had to take all this stuff off and do that. But we have a whole assortment of Vallejo paints. All of these drawers have your hobby tools in there. So there's tweezers, there's clippers, there's files. There are those kind of little Q-tippy things for precision work. There's green stuff in there. There's a whole bunch of little bases in there. There are these little things that I use to flock, or, most of the time I use these, just like half of a clamshell pack thing, put a bunch of this flocking material in it, and, PVC or whatever it's called, glue the base, and dip it in there and shake it around and whatnot. And this is also where I'm storing a lot of miniature building authority stuff as well. All my brushes. Oh my goodness, there's so much stuff in here. All these cases are full of Clan War figures. Have you ever heard of Legend of the Five Rings? And if you have you heard of the miniature war game they had for it called Clan War? So we have a bunch of Clan War figures. This was my Reaper Miniatures Kickstarter Vampire package from their very first Kickstarter. That's everything that came with that Vampire package, and some of the other add-ons and whatnot that I got from that. I have not touched a single one of those figures. And when did that Kickstarter happen? Like 8 years ago or something like that? We have boxes and boxes full of the old resin sets from Dwarven Forge, and that is barely scratching the surface. And that's one of the reasons these tubs here used to sit on top of here, but I have to get in here because we're going to be grabbing some of the catacombs pieces back in there on those shelves. I know you can't even really see, but like from this perspective, this wooden shelf goes all the way down to the floor. On all of those shelves are Eslo terrain stuff. We have a bunch of like Frontline Gaming and other gaming mats back in here that you cannot even see, but there's tons of those mat cases. This is my WarQuest map mat that I wanted to kind of have front and center because I might want to be playing that again soon. All of my Warlock, I shouldn't say all, but a good portion of my Warlock tile stuff separated out. I have a video, I think, on how I separated those out. These tubs are full of D&D Attack Wing stuff, and there's some other various and sundry things in there. I think a lot of that is... Now that says Dungeons and Lasers. I don't remember if actually Dungeons and Lasers stuff is in there or not. I'll have to look. I always forget where things are. But here's a whole bunch of my miniature building authority Euro Village buildings, some other terrain buildings, and of course all of the castle pieces, which are just fantastic. Then we have some of the other companies who've been releasing terrain lately, like those factory walls, and there are some dungeon pieces. I have videos on those as well. More token dishes and some of these trees, and more Eslo terrain, and more other terrain, and some painted figures in there. Like, you just grab a random box. Oh, what's this? Medieval Cavalry 2? What does that mean? Well, let's find out. Okay, so there actually is some painted cavalry in there. So, I mean, everywhere you look around here is going to be painted terrain and minifigures. Though not all of it is painted, because we do have things like this. And, yeah. That, I have so many figures from that, and then there are these Chaos Wars posters that I asked for as well during that Kickstarter. This is an old game, super old game from like the 60s. I had some cousins staying with me, and I had played this game with their great-grandmother, so I asked my parents if I could have this from their house so we could play that. This is a whole bunch of AD&D 2nd edition stuff that was gifted to me by a dear friend who moved and didn't want to take this with her, and I did a whole video on that as well. And we have a lot of just random stuff over here, like some of these things that I've done videos on for the Kickstarter projects of the dice spinner. That was another huge video that got a lot of views, were those spinning dice. A whole bunch of Dwarven Forge Dwarvenite stuff. So we have caverns, sewers, dungeons, and then of course all these different WizKids pre-painted packs as well. And a lot of those accessory packs, streets, roofs, all of that stuff, so full of the different figures they released. Even the old school figures. Remember when Dwarven Forge had figures like these war bands? Oh my gosh, those were back in the day. And then I separated out a lot of my WizKids stuff. There's more figures in those tubs, but a bunch of the dungeon dressing and town dressing stuff. This gray shelving unit, which again goes down to the floor back there, is full of these boxes. These are Mage Knight figures separated out by faction. So like, what faction is this one on top? And of course we have more of these WizKids, which is so funny, right? Because this is WizKid stuff, and back in the early 2000s, this was also WizKid stuff. But this is orcs, so this whole box is full of orc figures from who knows how many different expansions. We have an unlimited demo kit there, but each box has a different faction in it, and there's like 6 or 8 boxes down there. More Mage Knight stuff, for the most part stuck in that corner. Those WizKids mats. More like Pathfinder stuff. We have a computer in here that I've never used, but I have it in here. Originally, I used it for background music and just to look stuff up. Like if I wanted to look it up on a computer and not have to pull out my phone or whatever. Over here, insane shelves and boxes. A lot of these boxes are full of the capsule toys to refill the vending machine capsules. This is my huge stack of rule books of games that I've personally designed, and this chest is full of all my rough drafts. This chest contains the documentation. I don't even think I can open this right now. It is completely full of first drafts, revised editions of all the games I ever made, Dicey Depths first edition, all the, just scribbles on paper. Everything is in that chest. This chest doesn't have anything nearly as exciting in it, though it does have some Warhammer 40k boxes. When they released that Battle for Vedros line, random stuff everywhere. Here's the King's Finest little skirmish game that I made. There is my glue gun that I love. Bunch of Attack Wing stuff. This is all Dwarven Forge City stuff. Here are some more resin sets. Here are a bunch of those Dungeons and Dragons Dice Master stuff. There are all of those Creature Forge, can you believe it, WizKids, paired with Magic the Gathering to create almost kind of like token 3D pre-painted creature token figures. And I feel like I heard about them and then never heard about them again. And then I was able to get like a case or whatever of 6 of those Creature Forge booster packs for like pennies on the dollar. So I said, hell yeah. I opened up just one of them, but I have the other 5 still sealed there. But I also did the same with all of the Dungeons and Dragons Dice Master stuff. Those are still unopened. There's a bunch of containers in that box, as it says. There's 4 ground dungeons in that box. Here's a bunch of Mage Knight Castle stuff. Some foam-based terrain. There's a bunch of winter foreground trees in there. And when Toys R Us was going out of business, I picked up these Magic the Gathering Planeswalker sets just on pennies on the dollar, along with a lot of this other stuff. This is my big YouTube claim to fame right here. I did videos on Battleclaw. That was another flash in the pan game. It kind of had a gimmick. It was for kids. I thought it was really cool. You had all these little beast figures, which looked like those, just out in the center of the play area. And then you had this claw with a string. So you'd like throw the claw out and you'd pull back on the string and the claw would close on those figures and you'd pull it back to your side of the board and you'd use those figures as like energy to power up your cards. And I thought that was really cool. And so I did a whole bunch of videos on it specifically to get Mattel's attention, and they did. They actually reached out to me and said, Rick, we want to send you a YouTuber Battle Claw pack, and I was like, hell yeah. That's my big YouTube claim to fame. Until I reach 100,000 subscribers, which will probably not happen in my lifetime, um, is Mattel sending me this YouTube box for Battle Claw, which contained one of everything in the entire series, which was why I never had to open up any more stuff, even though I have still a whole bunch of Battle Claw sealed stuff, because I have one of everything in that YouTube box. Anyways, if I could spend a year, and it's already 45 minutes, going through every box, because as you can see, this is like 2 layers deep. There's all these boxes, then there's the shelves back there, and that goes to the floor, full of boxes of gaming history, gaming memorabilia. I have every figure from the World of Warcraft miniature battle game, because these were, for whatever reason, I don't know who sold it or what or why, but every figure from set 1 and 2 of that game sealed, with their cards sealed and the figures shrink wrapped or baggied or whatever. And yeah, that's back in there. We have a whole bunch. I'm pretty sure this box is full of counter sets and different tokens for the Ogre Designers Edition. Remember that? So this huge box right back here is this massive box of Ogre Designers Edition from Steve Jackson Games. I pulled it out of the box to take pictures of it, but that's pretty much it. But a whole bunch of third parties created additional content for it, and I'm pretty sure this box is full of that stuff. There are more foreground buildings that I haven't put together yet in here. There are painted figures, 25, 28 mil figures from alternative armies in here. I can't remember off the bat what is in here. But you know, if it's in here, it's gaming related. There is a box, and I think it's this box right here. This old box, you can't even see, it's so dark, full of Magic the Gathering loose bulk cards that I picked up a long time ago. All of my other Magic the Gathering cards are in, card boxes, and they're behind all of these boxes. When I used to collect Magic the Gathering cards are all back in there. My Pokemon cards are back there too. Can we even see those? No, I can't even see them. My Pokemon cards are back there. All kinds of stuff is back there. This bag of holding is the most ironic bag of holding of all time. This bag of holding holds nothing. This is I don't want to cuss on YouTube, but it's not one of those bags that has a flat bottom that you can actually store stuff in. So literally you can put a sheet of paper in here, and that's pretty much all you can hold in this bag of holding. It is the most misnamed bag of all time, and it actually makes me angry. The only reason I haven't thrown it away is because it's funny, and it adds just a little decor element to the room. We have a whole bunch more Dwarven Forge resin sets back here. Some old school games that my friend gave me after their mom passed, and they wanted me to have their board game collection, which was so sweet. Who remembers Arcane Legions? This is the original Mage Knight WizKids team that rebranded themselves as... what? What did they end up calling themselves? Something else, I can't remember, but they came out with this game, Arcane Legions. This was a demo pack for that game. Here, though, is what I would love to see make a comeback. I think I'm still friends with one of the original owners of this company, Gordon and Haig. This is a crate, if you can believe it. And growing up, the Civil War, the United States Civil War history I was fascinated by the battles of Gettysburg and Little Round Top and all kinds of things. And please tell me Little Round Top was a Civil War battle, because why am I doubting myself now? But anyways, Pickett's Charge and all that kind of stuff. Folks, have I ever showed you this? This is insane. This is truly insane. Can I pull this out without destroying it? This is pre-painted. What is it? Is it 10 or 15 mil? These look like probably 10. 10mm pre-painted Civil War figures. You have cavalry, artillery, officers, infantry. Oh my gosh. An entire army of these. And this is the army of the Confederacy. So you can guess the other box over there is full of the Union. If they can do this for Civil War figures, they absolutely can do this for fantasy wargaming figures. Someone please take this idea of pre-painted full-on 10mm, I swear it says it, yeah, there it is, 10mm scale, figures and do this for fantasy. You will have an undying customer in me. All right, anyways. So that is a whole bunch of that stuff. We have battle lore stuff. There are so many boxes of things back in there. But anyways, we spent so long in my utility room. Next, because we're already this far, let's just make this an hour then. Let's go into the sump pump room, the sump pump closet. Because there is an unbelievable treasure trove in here as well. Floor to ceiling game storage in here. This is all that Monster Fight Club stuff. The rocks, the bridges, the trees. I just for Christmas got a set of the Rivers and Roads. Definitely going to need more of these. I instantly fell in love with those. All of this Dungeons and Laser stuff, they sent me all of this to review over the years, and eventually one day I just had to say, you guys, I appreciate you guys sending me this stuff for review, but I just cannot review that anymore just because it's not for me. I'm a pre-painted, pre-assembled, pre-finished, put it on the table and go kind of gamer. So it pains me to clip things out of sprues, file them clean, fill in gaps, wash them, prime them, paint them, glue them, not in that order, obviously. So this stuff is just not for me, and eventually I'll find something to do with this. But then we also have a whole bunch of that dirt cheap dungeon stuff. We have more fantasy trip stuff. I'm not even sure what's in that box down there. This big yellow and black huge tub is full of those Mage Knight booster packs. Only half of them. The other half was actually in the utility room under the table. These tubs are all of my later Dwarven Forge Dungeon of Doom pieces, just separated out into walls, floors, and corners. Just because obviously I only bought a few sets of those, so they fit in there. The other dungeon stuff, I had like 10 sets of each or something crazy like that. We have all of the WizKids siege engines, some kind of Gundam knockoff sprue kits. We have these Draco Liches. We have the tower, the original WizKids tower back there. We have all this Ichiban Kuji stuff from Japan of DBZ and other things. There's more Dwarven Forge stuff in those tubs. Way over there, there's some Hero-scape stuff. My Hero-scape stuff is way back there. So as you can see, there's just so much freaking stuff. More Halloween decorations, obviously Christmas stuff. These tubs, a lot of these tubs are full of Playmobil, but a lot of these tubs are also full of Eslo terrain from Germany as well. And then we have some more creepy Halloween stuff. And then, of course, we have Colonel's the Popcorn Clown. He's not plugged in right now, so he better not turn on. But otherwise, he'd pop up out of there and say hello. But anyway, so that is my sump pump room. But that now is pretty much it. So what else? What else can we fill these last 6-ish minutes with? So things that I'm looking forward to in 2024. I just heard about Wormspan, the not Wingspan Revised. It sounds like it's going to be, its own thing based on the Wingspan engine, which still sounds to me like Wingspan Revised. But anyways, it's dragons. So yes, as much as I love Wingspan, Dragon Wormspan is going to be very cool. And of course, this is not all of my game stuff, because if you know me, there's game stuff all throughout the house. We have more Mage Knight things upstairs. We have my Warhammer Wood Elf army upstairs. We have a whole Lego room. So there's a room like this, but just dedicated to Lego stuff. And I just brought some of my favorite sets down here to put in this cabinet. But otherwise, all the rest of the Lego stuff is in its own Lego room. I do want to do another top, because I did my top 200 games and I posted that on Facebook. And but I do want to do another top like 100, but do it with better production values, because the last one was just god awful. It was not very good at all. But again, these are the games I'm looking forward to getting played. I've already played Nucleum in Barcelona, and After the Empire I've also played, but I want to get these played more. I somewhat learned how to play Septima, but I still need to learn it fully and get it played. Kutna Hora and the White Castle, I do not know how to play yet, so I got to get those played. This book of random encounters is so good, folks. This was at Five Below, if you can believe it. Unbelievable. This book has so many random tables and things that you can roll on. It was like made for someone like me, because I absolutely love books of tables. But I think that probably is going to do it. So for the Big Dicey Depths game, I'm not going to do any spoilers, but it sounds like we're going to have 8 players. So I will game master it, but we will have 8 players. So you may be asking, well, how the hell is everyone going to fit down here? Well, good question. I've already actually laid this out. I footprinted this for 8 players. We're going to put another table here, and that'll be enough, and a couple of those little tables on the sides as well. So we'll have 1, 2, 3 people on the side, 4, 5, 6 along here, and then 7, 8 over there, just so people still have room to get in and out. But yeah, we're gonna have the table topper on and go through a whole huge dungeon. And after that, we will lift the top off, and we will have a couple of side quests that the parties will actually split up and do. And then there will be one big final showdown after that. Of course, with visits into town to resupply, rest, collect some cash, spend it on new stuff, all the fun things that you expect in a Dicey Depths game. All right, again, folks, any questions on anything you see, please just ask. Otherwise, I think that is going to do it. So thank you all so much for watching. I do truly appreciate it. I hope your 2024 is amazing. And until next time.